Hey, here's a question for you ladies. If you were Job's wife, Job in the Bible, if you were Job's wife, would you have been killed? Weird question, right? That's what we're going to talk about today. All right, why am I asking this question? Well, I've started in my mornings getting back into reading the Word, just kind of that disciplined, regimented, daily reading of the Word. And of course, I started at Genesis and working my way through, and I came across that infamous story in the book of Job. If you're not familiar with that, Job is a story told about a man who was great. He was a good man. He was a righteous man, kind of like Noah, one of the very few good men who served and loved God. And then the angels came to God's presence, and God was like, where'd you come from? What's going on? What do you need? And in that mix of angels was Satan. And Satan asked permission to attack Job. It was kind of like a challenge, a weird challenge, or almost a bet between Satan and God, where Satan said, I bet I can make Job turn against you. And God was like, okay, give it your best shot, which is weird. I mean, and I'll get back to that oddity, the whole conversation, because it's like no other book in the Bible, and I'll jump onto that at the end. But right now, I want to focus on what happened to Job. And here's just a quick series of things that Satan put him through to try to get Job to turn his back on God, to drop his integrity, to drop his following of God, and turn his back on him. So let's see how the bet goes. Here's what happened. First, let me explain. Job just wasn't a righteous man. He was rich. He had a lot of possessions, a lot of stuff. He was a rich guy, and he was very close to God. First, here's how it kind of went down. He had 500 oxen and 500 donkeys and servants to tend to all of these animals. The Sadeans, a neighboring group of people, came in, stole the 500 oxen, the 500 donkeys, and killed all of the servants tending to those animals. He also had 7,000 sheep, and all the people, all the servants, the shepherds who tended to them. Fire fell from heaven and killed all 7,000 sheep and the people who tended to him. He had 3,000 camels and servants to tend to those 3,000 camels. The Chaldeans, another neighboring town, came in, stole all the camels, killed all the servants. And here's where it gets really, really bad. Satan attacks his family. Job had 7 sons and 3 daughters. They were all at like a cousin's house, eating a meal. A huge tornado came in, took the house away, killed the 7 sons and the 3 daughters. Satan is attacking Job big time. Then, if that wasn't enough, because Job was still hanging on to his faith, Satan attacked his health. He puts boils, painful, infectious boils from head to toe all over Job, where he can't even go out in public. He's not only lost all of his possessions, now he's lost his health. He is completely miserable, but he doesn't turn his back on God. Here's the weird rub. Out of all of that, all the attacks, Satan dealing with God like, hey, I can make your man Job turn his back on you. He takes all this stuff, takes all his possessions, his animals, his servants, his health. You know what he doesn't take? His wife. He doesn't do anything to his wife. He doesn't kill her. He doesn't hurt her. He doesn't make her sick. You know why? Because that wife was poison to Job. And she was there in a nagging position to get Job through all of these losses. Nagging. Here's what she said. Do you still retain your integrity? Curse God and die. Wow, what a loving, supporting wife. No wonder Satan didn't take her out of the picture. She was there to help Satan get Job to turn his back on God. Really weird. So if you, ladies, pardon the question, but if you were Job's wife, would he have killed you? Are you a supportive wife? Would you have encouraged your husband through all of this? He loses all his possessions. He loses his job, loses his car, loses his house, loses his health. Now your husband's got boils from head to toe. He's grotesque to even look at. Would you have been supportive? Would you have loved him through it and said, hey, God giveth and he taketh away. He gives us blessings and he puts us through trials. Let's hang in there together. Would you have been that loving, supporting wife, or would you have been like Job's wife? Curse God and die. Wow. What a supportive wife. So that's an interesting twist from the book of Job, that Satan didn't take his wife. He left the wife in the picture to be his ally in helping Job turn his back on God. So weird. So yeah, when you read that book, consider that. Ladies, what kind of wife are you? Would you have been killed along with the donkeys and the shepherds and all the possessions? Would you have been killed because Satan needed to take you out of the picture because you were too supportive? Or would he have left you there so that you would be his ally in helping the cause? Now, here's another thing that I learned from the book of Job after reading it again for, probably the 20th time. It's always bothered me that God would be in a little deal with Satan and he's like, hey, have you considered my guy Job down there? Let's see what you can do. And it was kind of this weird bet almost. It always bothered me. But if you look at the books prior to Job, everything was just the details of this king's son, and he had 5 sons, and he did this, and he begat so-and-so, and he lived this long. So many details of where they came from and their legacy and their line, who their dad was, their granddad, their great-granddad. So important in all the books prior to Job. You get to Job, and Job just comes from nowhere. He's from the land of Uz. I wonder if that's where the land of Oz came from. That story. But he's from the land of Uz, which I think is a real town in that area. But they doesn't say who his dad was, who his granddad was, whose line he was in. Another weird thing that has always bothered me is, how does Satan get into God's presence? How is Satan in this bundle of angels that goes to God's throne and asks him this and bargains with him? Satan was kicked out of heaven along with 1/3 of the heavenly hosts. They were gone. God is holy. He can't even be around the presence of anything that's not holy. So many things I could unpack there. But Satan goes into his throne room and approaches God in a conversation. Something just not right about that. And then I look closer. Not only does it not give the legacy, the lineage of Job, who his dad, granddad, great-granddad, doesn't do any of that. He just comes from nowhere. But I don't know of any other book that has these 3 words in it in the 3 sections, the beginning, the middle, and the end. At the beginning of the story, it says prologue. In the middle, it says interlude. And at the end, it says epilogue. Those are all words used in a play. And then it starts the creative writing. It goes right into Psalms, which is now this creative poetry language. I honestly think, and I've never been told this, I'm 56 years old and I've never learned this. I always thought Job was a real dude. This was a real story. This was just an accounting of what happened. Looking back on it, I think Job, the book of Job, is a play. I think it was creative language. It was a creative writing from somebody, kind of author unknown. This creative writing to paint a picture of how God holds everything in his hands. Because through that story, through the wife nagging him and all that. But he has 3 friends. Job has 3 friends come to give him advice. They're trying to give him good advice, but it's really bad advice. Till this 4th friend comes up and finally says, look, here's the moral of the story. God is God. He created everything. Everything is in his hands. Don't try to figure out God. If you had a God you could put in your pocket, he would not be God. He's the holder of everything. He's the giver and taker of life. You just deal with it because he's God. That's kind of the moral of the story. So I don't think Satan went into God's throne room. I don't think there was a bargain. I don't think there was a guy named Job. I don't think this really happened. It's a story. It's a story that we get so many nuggets from, just like a parable. Jesus told many, many stories, many parables to let people connect with who God is. I think that's what the book of Job is. But I wanted to share that with you today. I want you to really reflect on it. If you're a girl, if you're a lady, if you're a wife, spouse, I want you to reflect on it and ask yourself, if you were Job's wife, would you have been killed? Or would you have been spared because of what she did? That's a weird thought. Try to be a supportive wife. So if you were a supportive wife, you would have been killed. I'm not saying try to be killed. You know what? You know where I'm going with it. Anyway, I thought you would enjoy that short lesson. I thought you would enjoy that short story. As I'm going through the Bible, that one really popped me between the eyes. And I wanted to take time to make this video and share it with you. Peace out. Be sure to like and follow. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.